The world is about to enter a new era. A great change is coming.
Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
We were sent over a code for Season, A Letter to the Future.
Yes.
So this game, I don't really know much about it. It was I think it was a state of play, maybe about a year ago, 6 months ago, something like that. And it was kind of just this kid on a bike taking pictures in pretty places.
Yeah.
And that's I never really looked into it more because I don't really photography games not really my thing. So I never really looked into it that much, but I know that you were interested in it and you got a chance to check it out. So what exactly is this thing?
Yeah, so Season is maybe one of the most thought-provoking games I've played. It's a game that has long periods of quietness, and instead of looking at my phone, I'm just thinking about the previous scene that I just saw. It's a game that, like, when I would stop at the end of the day, I would just continually think about. It's a challenging game in that the world that it presents is a challenging thing where there are conflicts that you aren't sure which side is right. It's a really, really interesting game that I really, really loved. It kind of made me think in the way of like Red Dead Redemption 2. The thing I really liked about Red Dead Redemption 2 is that there's a lot of discussions of like death, of longing, of becoming a better person, these kind of interesting ideas, like, and they let you kind of just sit in it. And that's kind of what this game is. It's a game of giving you these really interesting ideas, and it's kind of not your job necessarily, but how much you get out of this game is how much you're willing to sit there and think about the game. You know, there's not gonna be a lot of actions going on. There's not gonna be a lot of like, you know, tap this button. It's like you get more out of it if you're willing to invest in the world that it's presenting to you and to think about the world that it's giving to you. So mechanically, though, Season. What is Season?
Well, wait, hold on a second. So what is this thing showing you? So like, what's the gist here? So like, give me what am I sitting and what's going on in this game? Because again, like, I think it was kind of just like sold as like, look at pretty game, you're gonna ride your bike through it.
Yeah. So
I think that seems a lot deeper than pretty game you're gonna go take pictures in.
It's pretty game where you go take pictures, but the world they present is so deep and so textured. I feel like a lot of games. I'll give you like a really stupid example. People will write these long essays about Sonic's universe, and Sonic's universe was really never meant to be thought that deeply about. Maybe not Sonic, maybe Mario or whatever else. But this one, it's not embarrassing to think deeply about it.
Okay.
Because it's so well thought out. So anyway, the setting of Season. You are from a small village high in the mountains, and one day your best friend has a dream, and the village elders realize that this means that the season is coming to the end. And what a season is, it's basically how this universe is set up is that the world goes through these things called seasons. And each season is kind of like a period of time. Like there's this part called the Golden Season, and that's when there was like cars and culture and all this other cool stuff. And then there was like a season of war. And then so the season of Golden Age ended, and then there was a season of war. And now you're in this season. They actually never quite describe what the current season is, like what the theme of the season is that you're currently in, but it's ending because your friend had this prophetic dream. And everybody in this universe like can feel it. They can feel the season's about the end. There's some big apocalyptic event happening, but nobody knows what it is. Okay. So what your job is to go out and record the final days of this season so they can be passed along to whoever survives or makes it through the season.
Interesting.
What's really cool though about it is that the character that you're playing as is not the person who should be doing this. Because your person has like lived in like a small village their entire lives, and this is the first time going out. So when you're kind of what you're doing is you're traveling through this world, trying to record it. You're taking photos of it, picking up documents and that sort of thing. So you're recording and you're taking pictures, and as you take pictures, you're filling out this journal book, this journal. So like you'll record a sound, you'll open your page to whatever section of the area you're in. Like you'll have like an individual page per section you're in, and you like put the recording on the page there. Every photo you take, you'll put it in your book. And sometimes when you're taking recordings and taking photos, the person that you're playing as will have a thought about it. Sometimes it'll be sort of like maybe a poetic thing, maybe like some sort of poetic thought about, like, you take a picture of a gravesite, they have some sort of poetic thought. You can choose, like, do I want that one sentence to go in this journal that's going to go passed on for generations?
Interesting. Oh, so you get to decide kind of the commentary on it. So do you
exactly
comment on what this is? Do you elaborate on what you're showing, or do you just show it?
Exactly. And then the thing that you're kind of debating is, because you, like, once you get to an area, you get a fresh page in your journal. But your journal is not big enough to fit all the things that you could take photos of. It's not big enough to fit all the things that you'd be talking about. So if it's your job to record this like last moments sort of thing, what do you want to record? Do you want to, so for example, there's a part where you're interviewing people. And what you can do is you can guide the conversation. So you'll interview, the first person you interview is an elder. So do you want to interview them about the historical nature of where they are in that place and time, or do you want to know how they feel about it? So there's like an elder you talked to at the beginning. She was in this really interesting place and time, but you can guide the conversation was, can you tell me very specifically what happened historically during this event, or what was your perspective on that event? And it's kind of going back and forth, and you're trying to figure out yourself, what do you want to balance with this? Am I trying to make a unbiased sort of like, here's a photo of the thing and here is a sign that's next to the thing saying exactly what it is. But sometimes, because you get to areas that have a complicated history, who put up that sign there? Is that sign even correct? Did they know? And if they did know, are they trying to erase a history of what the object might actually be?
This is very interesting.
It's super cool. And then the world... Yeah.
Just from what you're saying, it sounds like this is very much a, like, your investment will determine it, like how much you like role play, for lack of a better word.
Exactly.
This character
Exactly.
is going to completely determine if this game is amazing or if this game is just boring. Is like,
yes.
From what I'm picking up right now, that's all I'm getting is like, if you're in this, like, this is such a cool idea from this thought. But if you're not on board with that, I could very easily see this going like, what? Okay, what?
No, exactly. And that's why we were having a conversation earlier about, like, would you like this game? Like, I don't know who would like this game necessarily. I loved it. I don't know if people would enjoy that, because if you're not bought into that world. And the thing is, like, I'm telling all these kind of interesting, complicated things, and the world that they place you into is so interesting and so confusing, and like, you're learning along with the character about that world. So you don't even know what the truth is. Sometimes you know when the person's wrong. So for example, there's an old tire swing. You take a picture of the tire swing, and her commentary is like, oh, was this a warning to other cars to stay out of this area? And you know, no, that's a tire swing, obviously. But in this world, there exists these like brain sicknesses, and some of the sicknesses can include having too many memories, that you can't function. You have issues with time perception, called like a time sickness, and how those things interplay in this world, you don't understand, but your character does understand. So you're kind of like, you're learning about this world, understanding what your character knows, understanding what your character doesn't know, and then kind of discovering this whole place together. And it talks a lot about really complicated histories of, so like one of the good examples is, you are in a post-war area. You come to this section later in the game, this really, really gorgeous wide open area that really lets you go explore. And part of the history of this area was this indigenous area that was then taken over by an enemy force and turned into it was taken over by an enemy force and kind of turned to like a, you ever been to, this is a very American thing, so if you're not American, maybe you won't understand this. They'll have like lake, and they'll have like the Native American name, and they'll have like all this like Native American stuff, like kind of like thrown up by white people. Like it's not, it was not done hand in hand with the Native American tribe. And they kind of did this in this area. But there are Native people who live there. And so when you're recording this area, are you trying to just record the Native people there? Or is the fact that this place was subjugated and then resold, is that also part of the story that you want to include in the journal? So you're doing this self-editing of this history. And the thing that's really fun is like your character and you personally should not be doing this. Like you're not qualified to do this. Your character's not qualified to do this, but nobody else is going to do it. So you're creating this history that's going to be passed down. And the characters you meet are so interesting. The world is, I'm trying to think of some of the more interesting aspects of the world. One of the things I was talking about, kind of that brain sicknesses, the mental sicknesses, is that people will do ceremonies to forget things, and that's seen as a positive thing. Like, oh, I have too many memories. Let's do some sort of ceremonial things to remove the memories, and that's seen as a good thing, a positive thing. And you're like, that doesn't seem healthy. That doesn't seem. But nobody's questioning it in this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a lot that the world is presenting you some sort of weird idea that feels uncomfortable, and then nobody else is questioning it. But maybe that's part of the lore, is that nobody has come to this area to question it. You know, nobody's come to this area to question it except for you.
Yeah.
But your character wouldn't question it because they're part of that world.
This is such an interesting, like,
yeah.
Again, from not knowing nothing about this until 8 minutes ago or whatever.
Sure.
This is such an interesting, like, thought, like, through anthropology and, like, historical perspectives that, like, I'm very intrigued just from, like, this, like, weirdly educational area of, like, it seems like a very cool way to describe and show biases and how biases are created, because you're only getting these one areas, and you're getting one side of the story. You're getting the, like, again, we're both American. Like, you have like, this is the Revolutionary War from the Americans' perspective. We kick the British's ass because they're a bunch of fucking assholes. That is what we were taught in school, and that's the way. And, like, no, okay, well, like, there's probably more to that story, but you get the side that you get, and it's such an interesting concept to do that. And then even, like, again, from, like, an anthropology side, where it's like, okay, we're going into this area and just documenting like what these people are, and you have no perspective of the history of it. It's such an interesting way, just because I feel like you could kind of, and again, I haven't played it. It just seems like you could almost use it as, like, an educational tool of, like, this is what anthropology is. This is how historical biases are formed. This is why certain things are told the way they are, because nobody different has had the chance to tell it.
Exactly. You're totally right. That's exactly the sort of thought process that goes on. When I was playing the game, was definitely thinking about those kind of topics, especially with historical biases. Some of the other things I really like about it, especially because this is kind of like a major historical event, is that you learn about certain things that are going on in the world that are these monumental shifts that could be really negative, really horrible things maybe could happen. But your character is such a small part of this world that there's just, like, nothing they can do to fix it. And I mean, honestly, like, when you're thinking, you're thinking, like, a lot about, like, today's world and stuff too, where there is this sort of, like, feeling like, oh, the world's coming to an end, everybody knows it, and, like, nobody, it's like, not really. I mean, but there is this sort of, like, feeling of creeping towards this, and, like, that's what this is acknowledging. And, like, in this world, nobody it's like, in this world, it is happening. Like, the season will end. It's
2012
not like,
in Y2K every day, for real.
Yeah, exactly. But in this world, people are accepting of it. It's scary. This big change is a very scary thing to these people. And people are trying to figure out different ways to see if they can even survive whatever event is happening. But they've accepted that it's coming. And it's just these really, and like all the interviews you kind of do with different people are just like ruminations on what do you do with a life? What do you do with a life when a life is ending? There's a really good, one of my favorite parts in the game is you talk to a woman who's an artist in the woods, and she's a very old woman, and she's basically you're basically talking about all the works of art that are her thing, and she's like, all of this was just a tremendous waste of time because I know this is all coming to an end. So what was the point of creating art? And they have a lot of cool points in the game with that scene and other scenes where you can either choose to participate in this art or this moment, or you can choose to record it. And I really, really love those options where there'd be some very interesting ceremony or some very interesting intimate moment, and then right before it happens, it's going to happen, and then they ask, do you want to record this moment or do you just want to participate in it?
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's just this really, really antithetical. It's just thoughts I just haven't had playing any game before. And it's really antithetical to just normal types of games. To me, it's almost as game changing, no pun intended, as like Journey or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Where it's just like, oh, I've just never played anything like this before. I felt that as I was playing it. I just really, really loved it as a result. And there's like dumb stuff I could talk about, like, oh, the technical issues aren't great, and you know, taking photos isn't always the best thing, and all this stuff. But it's just like it's so meaningless to the point of the actual game.
So I guess is the gameplay itself is this kind of, for lack of a better word, and I don't mean it derogatory in any way, like walking simulator essentially, right? Like you walk, you take your picture, you walk, you talk to your person, you walk, you take your picture.
It is, but like but you get to, you move. I think some of the issues with these, like, you move slowly, but no, this one you get a bike and you just kind of let out in this very big, I'll just say open. It's an open world, and you kind of come across these like little scenes of a thing happening. So like, you might be riding your bike, and then you'll see like a little farmhouse. And you're like, I can pull over my bike, stop, check out the farmhouse. I get a new page in my book. Maybe I'll just keep riding. Maybe I'll keep riding, and then there's a tourist center that's abandoned. It's like, oh, okay, I'll stop up for the tourist center and see what's there, and you take photos. And like every little piece. The thing that's really cool about all these little areas, you'll learn something in one area that won't make any sense, and you're kind of like, okay, what does this mean exactly? And then you'll kind of go over to another place and go, oh, what they're referring to is the event that happened here. And actually, the character that they're talking about here is actually a relative of the character I interviewed over here. And it's not like telling you, like, it's not, there are games that like will draw lines to the different things. Like, no, it's not that. It's like you're piecing it in your mind. So a lot of the gameplay is your thought process of going through, because like when you're riding your bike, it's just these long quiet sections, and it's a really quiet game. But in that quietness, that's when you're thinking about the game, and you're thinking about all these things that we've been talking about.
Yeah. No spoilers, but then is it very like a linear path of like things you're discovering, or is it very open-ended? Does it have like a very clear like end goal? Like, is it just like fill up your 30-page book or something? Or
they do give you I mean, the goal is to record the last bits until the season ends. That's what it is.
So basically, is it like you have 30 days, and whatever you do in those 30 days, you do in those 30 days, like that type of thing?
Yeah, but they don't know the time that it's going to end. So and they kind of break it off into smaller sections. The first sections are like pretty linear and small to kind of get you like tutorialized, and then the sort of final area that I really recommend, like, that people like spend the most time in, because that's most of the game, is called it's called like the Sung Valley, but that just like, it's this huge open area that's like, I'd almost say it's like completely open world, but it's like really cool. So like, and because it's that area that I was saying that we had like the visitor centers and that kind of native population, all that, that's where you're going to spend like the most of the game. And that's where you're driving around, then you know, stopping and taking photos and doing all that stuff. Yeah. And then there is that time limit ticking in the back, but you're never sure at what point in the game the season is going to end. And none of the characters do either. There's no timer. But people just know it's coming to an end at some point. So again, it's like, yeah, it's not like 30 days or whatever. So it's like, there's no numbers, there's no this, it's all feelings. And there's a lot of interesting stuff on spirituality and religion, and that I haven't even talked about, that I'm not qualified to talk about, I don't think. That's really, really good and interesting as well. Yeah.
Interesting. This is cool not game. Not where I expected this to go. This is not.
That's why I said before.
I was expecting to have.
That's why I said. I think before we started recording, it's like I need to like kind of think. I need to think about this game a little bit more, because this conversation's not going to be about, you know, shooters or whatever, you know, or
that double jump
or whatever. Yeah, double jumps or whatever. No double jumps in this game. Yeah.
Damn. Well, we are Workhorse Gaming. We try to have new videos up every Monday. We'd love it if you left a comment or subscribe to our channel, and we will see you later.
Bye.